Hey everybody, welcome to this week's LAB. I'm going to apologise in advance for my voice. I've just had a cold for about a month that I can't get rid of, and it's also the reason why I'm dressed a bit like a granddad today. But hey, it's Sunday, so let's just roll with it. I want to talk about diversity and inclusion today because if any of you have been following my socials, you will know that I've been doing a huge amount with this. At the moment, I've been up and down the country. I was in Bristol talking on the Unity and Diversity in Law panel at Bristol University about a month ago, and then a few weeks ago I was also at Baker McKenzie in London listening to their social mobility ideas and their panel that they had speaking there. And there was so much going on at both of these events that I found so interesting, and people's views on this issue were so insightful that I really wanted to do a video to share it with all of you guys. So I'm going to address the elephant in the room first of all, which is what the chuff does a middle class white girl who grew up in the home counties know about the struggles of diversity and inclusion? And you'd be absolutely right. When I was looking for training contracts, I worried about a whole host of things, but my surname, colour of my skin, background, culture were not one of those things that I worried about, and I was very fortunate in that respect. But I also wanted to share with you a little bit about the environment that I work in at the moment, which I thought you might find interesting. So in my department at work, I'm actually in the majority for being female and the minority for being white. And that might be something to do with the fact that I work in Birmingham and I work in personal injury law, and my firm is renowned for its diversity and inclusion policies. But I still think it's interesting because it's not what people generally think of as the demographic of a law firm, but I do think that it's really indicative of the current thinking in the profession and how inclusive and diverse it is. You might have seen in the media or in the press some really worrying statistics, for example, about gender pay gap at certain firms, or about the relatively small percentage of people from minorities who have made it to very senior positions in the bar. But what you've got to be mindful of when you're looking at those statistics is that they encompass people who are in very senior positions in their career, and they have worked their way up back in the day when the profession was not as inclusive and not as diverse. And the reality is it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years for the attitudes of today to resonate at a high level, because that's how long it's going to take our generation to make it to the top of our profession. So when you look at these statistics, just be mindful of the fact that they're not necessarily representative of the marketplace that you're entering into right now. The best way you can find out more information about that is to research the specific firms that you're applying to and look at their policies on diversity and inclusion. You can also look at booklets like this, which will help you, which is the Aspiring Solicitors Diversity and Inclusion Index, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit more detail in a minute. So why does diversity and inclusion exist as an idea? Why are there these policies, and why is there this perception that certain groups may be excluded from entering the legal profession? Well, I personally don't think that the legal profession by its very nature is discriminatory against anyone from any background, religion, etc. The legal profession has an objective set of criteria which anybody who wants to enter it has to meet in order to be successful. But what I do think has happened historically is that people from underrepresented or minority groups have had difficulty in accessing the resources which allow them to hit those criteria. So, for example, that may be because of financial reasons or cultural reasons or social circumstances that haven't allowed you to go to private school or study at a red brick university or access any of these resources, which tend to prepare you and help you to enter the profession a bit better. However, this is no longer the case. These barriers, in my opinion, are no longer in place, or not to this significant extent that they used to be, because there is now a plethora of information and support out there, not just on the internet, but in organisations like Aspiring Solicitors, who I've talked about before, and I'm not going to go into all the shebang again, but Aspiring Solicitors was set up primarily with the aim of creating accessibility for those from underrepresented or minority groups who were finding it more difficult to enter the profession. And they've created this index, which I really recommend that you read if you are in one of those groups and you are worried about diversity and inclusion, or that you might be prejudiced against for any reason, because I really think this will put your mind at ease, because virtually every major law firm is in there and is ranked in according to its diversity and inclusion policies, and nearly all of them are doing great things in terms of diversity and inclusion. So I really think you should read this and see what the current thinking about this is in the profession, because I really think it's much more encouraging than you might think it is. And aside from the Diversity Inclusion Index, Aspiring Solicitors has so many opportunities for training, development, networking, learning, that you'd be foolish not to sign up if you want to gain more insight into the profession and more support. Even if you're not from an underrepresented or minority group, there's still a load of information on there which you could find really helpful. So please sign up. I'll link all the details below, as I usually do. So I think what I'm trying to say in a really roundabout sort of way is that the legal profession is flipping hard to get into. There's no two ways about that, I'm afraid. But I don't believe that it's any harder for you if you're from a minority or underrepresented group than it is for anybody else. And I want you to take those demons out of your mind, because it will jade you unnecessarily and create negativity and frustration that just doesn't need to be there. My overwhelming advice to you is to focus really hard on the objective criteria that you need to meet and smashing the shiz out of them, and you will be successful. That is the only barrier that you need to worry about. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. Hopefully it's been helpful. Please comment and let me know what you think, and I will catch up with you guys next week. Bye.